America's enemies and woke Pentagon bureaucrats are on notice. President-elect Trump nominating Pete Hegseth as his Secretary of Defense. Hegseth lives and breathes the military. It's in his DNA. He's a combat vet with 20-plus years of service. He did tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, receiving 2 Bronze Stars. Hegseth also has degrees from Princeton and Harvard, but we're not going to hold that against him. Pete also literally wrote the book on how to root out the woke insanity that's weakened our military. The man knows his stuff. So when you heard about this, Greg, last night around 7, what crossed your mind?
I was deeply hurt. I'm losing yet another guest. I've lost like 4 guests. I think the Gutfeld show is going to be staffing the entire White House. But he projects Secretary of Defense, kind of the way Homan projects border czar and Jesse projects shallow frat boy.
Shallow frat boy department.
Yes. But,
Mr. Secretary.
Pete's a guy. He's not a guy in a dress. He's not a guy who will make you read a manual on equity and inclusion. He's single-minded, he's determined, and he's uncomplicated. The media criticism right now is an appeal to authority. Like, who is this guy? As if they don't know how to Google and find out, 2 Bronze Stars, 2 decades in the military. Also one of the most persuasive defenders of the military. He is what actors play in movies. He's what Clooney impersonates. Right. Again, it goes back to my point about the Avengers. They got the actors. We got the real people. Hegseth was the first and most persuasive voice trying to preserve the lethality of our fighting forces under attack from the scourge of identity politics. Lethality is a primary mission, and it's only achievable through meritocracy, which is the enemy of DEI. Military personnel, they cannot be splintered into competing self-interests, which is encouraged, of course, by identity politics. It undermines the cohesion of the fighting group. And so he is right at that spear of making changes, and he's pretty fearless. My problem is he's so unattractive, very homely man.
This also shows how powerful Trump is at this point. He's not afraid of the media, not afraid of Democrats. He puts who he wants where he wants them.
I do think that the initial reaction was shock. And then as you read through later in the day, people were like, actually, an inspired choice. And I say that because of having gotten a lot of text messages going, what is going on? I'm like, a couple things. One, he's a great communicator. And one of the things we have not had in the last 4 years is somebody who can articulate what is America's position on this policy here, around the world, and where are we going? This is where we're going. This is where that we want to get to. Also, he understands his audience. His audience is not just people on Fox and Friends that watch Fox and Friends. If he gets this job, and I assume that he will get confirmed or however they decide to do it with the recess appointments, his audience will be our adversaries, our allies, and our troops. And he understands that, and he's very good at it. I would also say to anybody who's like, who's this guy? Read one of his books. He's an excellent writer and a great thinker. The books he's done on the military are great, but I would also say his book on education was one of the best. And if you're worried about your kids' education, look at that one. He talks about classical education. Also, the people complaining about him are the ones who thought that an indecisive and skittish Kamala Harris should be commander-in-chief. And I just want to point out a couple of other things. Joe Biden named this woman, Tracy Stone Manning, to run the BLM, that's the Bureau of Land Management, Greg. She had direct ties to an eco-terrorist organization. Then, after the October 7th attack, he nominated a lifetime federal judgeship to a guy named Adil Manji, who had hosted anti-Semitic groups on campus and defended cop killers. He had Sam Britton.
Yes.
Right? Okay. The luggage thief, okay, to oversee nuclear waste disposal. Good thing he didn't steal any of that. I could go on, but the last one I would mention is Jen Granholm. She literally invested in EV battery companies while serving as the energy secretary of the country. So if you're going to be all up in arms about one nomination, just give Pete a chance. I think that he will do a great job.
Give Pete a chance.
Give Pete a chance.
Nice.
Thank you.
Very well done. Judge Janine.
I was ecstatic when I heard the news. Like Vivek, like Elon, he's an outsider. He's an America First guy. We all love him here. He is a great guy. He respects everyone. For those people who may not know him, he's got all the accolades necessary. It's the 2 Bronze Stars and what is it? The combat infantry badge, et cetera, et cetera. He's written a bunch of books, and I agree the one on education is excellent. But even more important than that is the fact that he is so anti-DEI, anti-CRT, and he said he's going to start with the Joint Chiefs. And he's going to make sure that he weeds out those individuals, who don't recognize that, their allegiance is to America first. And that's what we can count on Pete for. And I think it's also interesting that Elizabeth Warren would criticize him. She's defending Tim Walz, who lied about stolen valor, from carrying a weapon of war in war, from being on the tarmac in Bagram, to not ditching his own battalion the night before. And she wants to support Tim Walz, but not Pete Hegseth, who is the real combat infantryman who has spent his life fighting for the military, having people who were in the military have a voice, using him as pretty much the trumpet through whom they could speak. So I think it's symbolic that he was announced on Veterans Day and that night, and I think that it is a phenomenal pick. I am so excited for him.
Yeah, these hearings for the confirmation are going to be interesting, Harold. If Liz Warren wants to pick a fight with Pistol Pete.
First of all, congratulations to Pete and his family. I don't know him, have not known him as long as you guys have known him, but the few years I've been at the network, he's been nothing but a good friend and a gentleman. So congratulations to him. You've talked about his experience in the military. I think I would add two other things. He has the confidence of the leader of the free world. The president believes in Pete. And when you have that kind of relationship with the president, when you're defense secretary, it allows you to speak with not only a degree of candor, but a degree of authority across the globe. Two, he will inspire confidence in the rank and file. Mm-hmm. And it's a huge task he will have in front of him, as Pete knows well, because the new Pentagon and our new defense posture over the next 10, 20 years will rely heavily on new innovation and new technology. And having someone who's young, someone who remains connected to the military, someone who is outspoken on issues. I don't agree with Pete on all the things that he has stated over the years, but here's someone who's smart, who's thoughtful, who will listen, who will bring, I think, a fresh dose of leadership to the Pentagon. I wish him well as he goes through the confirmation process. And I differ slightly. I don't want any recess appointments. I think everyone should have to go through a full confirmation hearing, and I have nothing but confidence that Pete will make his way through that. But I think for the country's sake, we should have full confirmation hearings for everybody.
All right. And he doesn't even have to pay me back. You know what? Just keep it.
Let go.
You deserve it, Secretary. Ahead, liberal leaders haven't learned a thing. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson still calling President-elect Trump a threat to minorities and migrants.